I'm joined today by Mr. Pat Jacobs of Burleson, Texas, who recently received the NCHA Judges Department Distinguished Service Award. Now, this award was created by the Judges Committee in 2008, and Pat is the fourth individual to have won this award thus far. Now, Pat, I understand that you've been judging cutting through NCHA since 1961. Give us a little history of that.
Well, a lot of things have changed. A lot of water has passed under the bridge. And first of all, I want to thank you and the committee and Russell and everybody for allowing me to get this award. I was just so surprised because I didn't have any idea that I was even up for it or anything like that. And in fact, I was in the hospital when I was informed about it. I just had major surgery, stomach surgery, and that was better than a bouquet of roses or anything else.
What wonderful
it was really meant a lot to me. And the first cutting I judged was a $500 added cutting in Canadian, Texas. And I judged with a very high marking, experienced but liberal judge. And I was so scared and so nervous because all my heroes were there. There was probably 35 or 40 horses in the open.
Oh, wow.
And I knew I was going to have to save some high scores because I was going to see something that I'd never seen before. And so consequently, I was so low. We had our winners the same, but I would be 3 or 4 points lower on each horse than the other judge.
Oh, wow.
And I was glad to get out of town.
I can imagine. Well, what were some of the requirements at that time?
I believe all you had to do is belong to the NCHA for a year. And if somebody asked you to judge a cutting, there was no screening process or anything like that. If you hadn't been suspended or anything like that, you could be a judge.
Oh,
it's
wow.
so not like it is today at all. It takes a lot of questioning and screening and everything like that, which is right. You know, we've progressed a long way. Well, there was quite a few judges, but it was just local people would judge, you know, some farmers and ranchers and stuff like that if they belonged to the NCHA. And that's kind of the brother-in-law system back then. It wasn't very fair, really. And way back there, we didn't have any rules like for credit. It was all just takeaway, the penalties. And I don't think we had over 10 or 15 rules.
I see.
And it was awful hard to judge because they didn't, you didn't know what credits to give.
Right.
And just what to take off, and it was a very negative deal.
So did you start from a 70 and judge, you know, from there, or what did you?
Well, I hate to say this, but maybe a lot of the contestants say there was a famous guy that's been a world champion 3 times. When he rode into the herd, you might be thinking 75. He was a 75 marking rider, which is wrong. And then here would be another one that's won several world champions. So you'd think of him as a 73. And then here comes somebody else that you knew that won a lot, and he would be a 73 instead of a 75 marking rider. And here was somebody you didn't know, so he would be a 70 marking rider. And then you'd deduct the penalties from that, which wasn't fair at all.
So what are some of the improvements that have been made over the years that you would consider, you know, the most important to the Judges Department?
Well, I believe when Bill Riddle came out with the case book, I drug my feet on that. I was pretty conservative and didn't want to change very much myself back then. But I think that was probably one of the best things that we've ever done, plus the 5-judge system and dropping the high and low score. I think that's really, and then we started putting emphasis on working correct and things like that, and giving credit where credit was due. When I first started judging the cut in the first 10 or 15 years, it wasn't fun at all. I mean, it was just, you felt like you had a duty to perform for the industry and the Cutting Horse Association. And the pay wasn't very good. And it was just something that you felt obligated to. And the last 10 or 15 years that I judged, it was fun. I enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
So I understand you were a big part of the judges' monitor system, right?
Well, there were several of us that kind of lobbied in the background. We would get our heads together in a motel or whatever. We'd be at a 2 or 3 day cutting, and we'd get to discussing things, you know, how we could improve this and how we could improve that. and I was pretty vocal. I'd always call Zach and say, hey, what about this? What do you think about this? And then on several occasions, Zach would just call me on Monday morning and said, all right, Pat, what did you come up with this time?
Wow.
But I really lobbied real hard for that 5-judge system.
So from what I understand, the judges would or could converse between sets, right?
Oh yeah, and we could go out and talk to the contestants.
I see.
And we could mark somebody a 74-5 and hadn't seen him for a long time, go out and shake hands with him between cattle changes and pat him on the back and everything like that. There was nothing like it is today.
Wow.
And the intimidation factor was very, very high then.
Well, Pat, obviously you aren't judging anymore, but I understand you've been keeping plenty busy and keeping your interest in NCHA alive, and you've got a few books out, huh?
Well, I've written 2 books, to a lot of people's surprise. They didn't know I could read or write. But anyway, the first book I won Will Rogers Memorial Award for Literature of the Year.
Oh, wow.
I just found that out about a month ago.
Okay.
And it tells about old cutting horses that was hard to train that made champions. And the second book is fiction, and it talks about maybe the formation of the NCHA and about an old exotic rancher.
Oh, neat. And where can our viewers find your books at?
They can either call me, go through the membership list and find my telephone number. I love to talk. Or go to my website, and it's very simple, just patjacobs.com.
Okay, perfect.
And they'll get more information they're interested in.
Well, Pat, we can't thank you enough for coming out to visit with us today, and congratulations again for receiving the NCHA Judges Department Distinguished Service Award, and thank you so much.
I really, really appreciate it, and it was quite a surprise for me.